你以为剩女焦虑大，其实剩男压力更大。你看啊，一个35岁的女生，收入一般。
You may think older unmarried women feel the most anxiety, but in reality, older unmarried men are under even greater pressure. Look at it this way. A 35-year-old woman with an average income can still set conditions. She can still say that the other side must pay in full, or that the man's monthly income must exceed 10,000 yuan. She can still ask for a tall man, but a 35-year-old man of the same age, if he earns only 5,000 yuan a month and has no house and no car, then sorry, you do not even qualify to go on a date. Take Shanghai as an example. A man from Dalian, age 35, earning 10,000 yuan a month, renting a place to live, goes into the matchmaking market and posts his profile. The women have already swiped past him long ago. That is the cruelty of society. Women still have a gender advantage. Men do not have a shortcut. It is not that you are not working hard. It is that society's expectations of men are higher and much harsher. At the matchmaking corner in Chengdu People's Park, there are even notices posted saying that women are already overflowing. Men are starting to collectively walk away from marriage. Isn't everyone very picky now? In an era like this, where men do not like the women, and women do not like the men, if nobody gets married, who becomes the most anxious in the end? Is it the men who panic, or the women?
中国的婚恋市场已经彻底的进入女儿国模式了。
China's marriage and dating market has completely entered what feels like a kingdom of women. In cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, and Guangzhou, the ratio of men to women at matchmaking events has already reached a shocking 1 to 50 in multiple places. In Beijing's matchmaking events, there has even been the rare phenomenon of men getting in for free, while women have to pay. At these matchmaking events, thousands of single women wait there with hope, but male participants are extremely scarce. And even when a few men finally show up, many of them leave the event halfway through, using all kinds of excuses. The data shows that China's male population actually exceeds the female population by 30 million. The number of marriage-age men has reached as high as 159 million. It is clearly a situation of more men and fewer women. So why is it that in first-tier cities like Beijing and Shanghai, in the marriage market, every 50 single women can only be matched with one single man?
真是绝了啊！现在
This is unbelievable. Looking for a partner now has completely flipped upside down. Girls are going everywhere on blind dates, while one by one the men have become cold, resistant, and impossible to move. Yesterday in Erki district, a guy told me why even bother looking for a partner anymore. Every time I get into a relationship, I end up covered in emotional wounds, losing both money and peace of mind. And that really made me wonder, how deep of a psychological shadow have girls cast over boys now, to the point that these men would rather play video games than look for a relationship? Is it because they have become afraid of all the demands for a car and a house? Or because the constant drama has exhausted everything? Or because they are terrified of being treated like nothing more than an ATM? To all the men watching this, what exactly have you been through?
和男朋友快结婚了，什么都谈好。
My boyfriend and I were about to get married. We had already discussed everything. The bride price was 200,000 yuan, but I only made one very small request, and he changed his mind. What request was it? Tell us. After marriage, his salary card and his parents' salary cards would all have to be handed over to me to manage. And also their family house would need to be transferred into my name. As a result, he said this marriage could not go ahead. I honestly do not understand. Is such a small request really that hard to meet? This is a classic case of delusion. You do not look like someone coming to get married. You look like someone coming to raid the household. Are you planning to wipe out his whole family from the roots? You have not even entered the door yet, and you already want to take over all of their property. Who would still dare marry you?
大龄剩女多的原因，一方面是因为她们期望值太高。
Is that their expectations are too high. Only scammers can satisfy them. And in real life, the number of scammers is limited. Another reason is that many men are under too much pressure in life. They would rather become the last generation and let the family line end with them. They have no interest at all in marriage and having children. Passing on the family line is supposed to be an animal instinct. And if they are willing to give up even that instinct, then naturally, they will not consider marriage.
一个月3、4千的话，适合结婚吗？现在
If someone makes only 3,000 to 4,000 yuan a month, is that enough for marriage? Getting married on a salary of 3,000 to 4,000 yuan now. You are being far too optimistic. That really is too optimistic. I think with 3,000 to 4,000 yen, at the very least, if it is two people together, their combined income should at least reach 20,000 yuan. Because think about it. You need rent, water, and electricity. And once you get married, you probably cannot just keep renting forever, right? To get married, you need a home, right? Then every month you have to pay the mortgage. And if you plan to have children, would that not make things even harder? Getting married on 3,000 to 4,000 yuan a month feels like the pressure would be way too great. It feels like with that kind of income, marriage is almost impossible.
我跟你说点心里话啊，你们采访是我跟你说实话。
Let me tell you something honestly from the bottom of my heart. You are interviewing me, so I will just say it directly, right? Yes? At 10 o'clock, if a man does not have a house, then it is hard to say. It is just hard. There is nothing more to explain. For girls coming from the countryside, even if they are average in every way, they still have to look for someone who has a house. As for men buying a house, those who can buy one are basically treated very differently. Unless you have a good job or a high monthly income, then maybe that can still work. If we are talking about 100 families, 100 households, you could say it like this. Marriage right now is just that difficult to accept. Then what kind of women generally have a hard time finding a partner? How should I put it? For women anyway, those who have been married before or already have children. They are the ones who have a harder time finding someone. But if a woman does not have a house or things like that, people do not really talk about that much. Women's requirements in this area are not that strict. The key problem in marriage today is that women's expectations are too high. The standards they ask for are too high. The demands are so high that for ordinary families, there is simply no way to satisfy them.
中共治下的中国社会道德沦丧。
Under CCP rule, moral values in Chinese society have declined, and views on marriage have changed. The gender ratio between men and women in China is imbalanced, and the marriage market is severely distorted. Mainland Chinese media has pointed out that various matchmaking events in big cities are showing a pattern of fewer men and more women. According to statistics from people working in the dating and marriage industry, in 2024, the ratio of men to women attending matchmaking events in Shanghai was 1 to 9. Among these so-called leftover women in the cities, quite a number of them cannot find their ideal man because their standards for choosing a partner are set too high. The main reason, according to this analysis, is the exploitation caused by the CCP, which has left urban leftover women unable to obtain the life security they want. Many men at the bottom of society cannot provide the life they want. And combined with the CCP's brainwashing education, which has encouraged money worship, this has led many urban leftover women to prefer becoming a rich man's mistress or being the other woman, rather than lowering themselves to marry a poor man. In sharp contrast to the large number of leftover women in the cities, China's countryside has seen a huge number of unmarried young men and entire bachelor villages, many rural men, when they cannot find a partner, or even when they do find one, but still do not have the money, can only choose to remain single. Since the 2010s, rural China has gradually formed one bachelor village after another. This situation has been identified as one of the bitter consequences of the CCP's family planning policy.
为什么现在农村有这么多光棍儿？
Why are there so many bachelors in the countryside now? Because the parents do not have the means, and the son does not have the ability either. The parents cannot buy a car and a house for their son, and the son himself does not have the ability to support a family and earn a living. A lot of parents tell their sons to go outside and trick a wife into coming back, to live in a house like this. That kind of thinking is exactly what harms their sons. Why? Because if a woman follows you and lives in a house like this, in less than 1 month or 2 months, she will run away. And then if she gives you 2 sons, the pressure on your family will become even greater because your son cannot support a family and cannot carry the household either. So if you do not have the ability, then it is better to choose to remain a bachelor on your own initiative. That way you do not hold someone else back, and you do not exhaust yourself either. A 33-year-old older unmarried woman. In the end, our final outcome may simply be growing old alone. I'm about to turn 34, another year older, and only now have I realized that in this lifetime, it may truly be very difficult for me to ever get married. No wonder older unmarried women in Nanning seem to be everywhere now. Right now, I am at the matchmaking corner in People's Park in Nanning. Just look around. Women and the parents of women make up 90% of the crowd. Most of them are already over 32 years old. I looked through their profiles. Some are doctors, some are teachers, and some work in state-owned enterprises. Their conditions are actually very good. So why are they still single? Because they all want a man who is over 175 centimeters tall, with at least a bachelor's degree, with savings, a house and a car, with a stable job, an annual income of over 200,000 wen, emotionally stable, with high emotional intelligence, and preferably handsome too. But men who can meet all of those conditions at the same time are simply too few. Chongqing's matchmaking market has already become one of the hardest hit places for women looking for a partner. Do not just believe those numbers online. The ones saying that men outnumber women in China by more than 30 million. Because in Chongqing's matchmaking market, the ratio of men to women showing up for blind dates has already reached as high as 1 to 4. And even that is still a conservative estimate. It could be even higher. I always feel like the standards being pushed onto women now for choosing a partner make it seem as if women are being treated like fools. Look at this. They tell you not to ask for bride price. They tell you not to be too realistic. They tell you that you cannot look for a rich man. And they also tell you not to care too much about looks. Then tell me, after removing those 3 things, what is even left? No bride price, no money in his family, and he is not even good looking. Then you might as well just say it directly. What you really mean is that you want us all to go find a man who is stingy, poor, and unattractive, and bring him home. So we can support him, right? So we are supposed to marry him and have children with him. Is that what you mean? Are we stupid? Do you think women have no brains? That we are all foolish and simple-minded? A lot of men today are unwilling to fall in love, probably because they feel the cost is too high and the return is too little. Relationships today are no longer something simple, no longer just about companionship. More and more, they have become about material giving. They require money. Exactly. And on top of that, men are not only expected to be ATM machines, they are also expected to be emotional trash cans. And the moment anything goes even slightly wrong, they get slapped with negative labels, called things like an instant turn-off kind of man. So in the end, who would still be willing to make themselves suffer like that? What do you think? Why are there more and more leftover men and leftover women now? Because men have no money. Men have no money. How do you explain that? For example, if a man has no money, he cannot afford a car, cannot afford a house, and cannot afford bride price, then he cannot get married. So he gets left behind. And what about women? As for women, I think it is because if a man has no money, she looks down on him. But if a man does have money, then he may look down on her. So in the end, she cannot reach high enough, and she is unwilling to settle lower. And naturally, that is how she gets left behind, too. Who still dares to get married these days? Whoever marries is the one who suffers. There are too many gold diggers. There are too many marriage scams. Once you run into a woman with bad intentions, your body, your mind, and your soul will all be exhausted beyond measure. Your whole family will be thrown into chaos, especially the ones asking for bride price or even sky-high bride price. In reality, that is often a sign that they are preparing to run away. They never truly plan to build a good life with you in the first place. Relationships today are far too unstable. They can break apart at any moment. And in the end, you may lose both the person and your money.
彩礼啊，高不高？
Bride price, bride price. Is it high or not? Of course it is high. How high is it? 200,000, 300,000 when? Anyway, I have never really heard of many cases where those sky-high amounts were truly paid in full. In other words, people talk about it being high, but in reality, a lot of it is never actually fulfilled. I feel like I could never come up with that kind of money either. I am worried about it too. My family is just an ordinary one. Maybe we could scrape together 400,000 or 500,000 win at most. There are all kinds of amounts, really. 58.8. Seriously? Do they actually hand over real cash? Yes, they do. They give it to the girl's parents. So is the bride price given to the girl? Or is it taken back and used for something else? It is given to the woman's side. It is given to the parents to buy things. If the girl needs to handle something, then they give it to her. Give it, but in the end, do they return it back to you or not? People from outside all say that bride price in Jiangxi is very high. How do you see this issue? I think it is very unreasonable. For a young person, if he has just graduated and started working, he still has to buy a house, still has to get married, and still has to pay bride price. Then he simply cannot build a family at all. It is just too expensive. For migrant workers back home, there is no land left to farm. There is nowhere stable to work. And even getting enough to eat has become a problem. China's dating and marriage market has completely entered what feels like a kingdom of women. In cities like Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, and Guangzhou, the ratio of men to women at matchmaking events has already reached a shocking 1:50 in multiple places. At matchmaking events in Beijing, there has even been the rare sight of men getting in for free while women have to pay. At these events, thousands of single women stand there waiting with hope. But the number of male participants is extremely small, and after a few men finally show up, many of them end up leaving halfway through, using all kinds of excuses. The data shows that China's male population actually exceeds the female population by 30 million. The number of marriage-age men has reached as high as 159 million. It is clearly a situation of more men and fewer women. But then why is it that in first-tier cities like Beijing and Shanghai, in the marriage market, every 50 single women can only be matched with one single man?
来，先看视频。
Come on, watch the video first. I really do not understand. How is 388,000 yuan considered an outrageously high bride price? There are people asking for 500,000 or 600,000 yuan. There are even some asking for more than 1 million yuan. If you have the ability to marry, then go ahead and marry. If you do not have the ability, then do not marry. No one is holding a knife to your neck and forcing you to do it. If you cannot afford to marry, then just stay a bachelor. Under my last video, there were even people in the comments saying that even women like me who are willing to marry down still no one wants. That is honestly ridiculous. Is there anyone who likes girls from the countryside? We are here in Huaihua, Hunan. As long as you do not mind the distance, and do not mind that our place is poor, there are still 28 single girls in our village.
大龄剩女就算是单身也不会去找。
What do you think? How much income does a man need to make in 1 month to be able to support you? At the very minimum, it would have to be 8,000 yuan. Why does it have to be that much? Because even with 8,000 yuan, it is not like you can live that well. At least it should be enough to cover food, drinks, and a little fun. Over 10,000 yen, maybe 20,000 to 30,000 yen. Why does it have to be that much? Because I have too many needs. Too many needs, mister. So how much do you earn in a month right now? A little over 3,000. Is a little over 3,000 enough for you? No, it is not. So that is why I said I should find someone making over 20,000 or 30,000 yuan, 50,000 yen. Why does it have to be that much? With this face of mine, with this figure of mine, is 50,000 really that much? How much he earns every month does not matter. As long as he spends it on me, that is enough. Roughly speaking, 20,000 to 30,000 yuan. Why does it have to be that much? Because I need to maintain a rich, comfortable lifestyle. Before we dive into all of this, let us know in the comments where you're watching this video from. Connecting with viewers across the world is a huge source of inspiration for us.
为什么现在剩男剩女越来越多了？
没钱嘛？
谁没钱？
Why are there more and more leftover men and leftover women now? Is it because there is no money? Who has no money? The men have no money. Are women today all looking for rich men? So men and women end up holding each other back like this. Then does character not matter? In today's society, how much is character even worth? Can it be eaten? Can it be drunk? Money is the only real king. I said there are more than 50 bachelors in our village. That is already a lot. But some people left comments saying that in their village, there are more than 100 bachelors.
我们这个村光棍特别多。
Even older unmarried women, even if they stay single, still would not go looking for those rural bachelors. I am telling you. Then what are those rural bachelors supposed to do after being born into this life? Wait. Can you at least help support them somehow? No, wait. Do not just say no. Say something practical. You cannot be like this. Then what about the country's future? Wait, what about the future? Wait, I am asking you. Say something practical. Say something practical.
谈恋爱吗？倾家荡产那种。
Do you want to fall in love? The kind that leaves you completely broke and ruined. There are a whole lot of bachelors. In the countryside, unmarried men are everywhere. In the cities, older unmarried women are gathering in groups. So how much monthly income does it take just to support yourself? Monthly income? How much per month? Right? If we are talking about someone who already has a house and a car, then at the very least, it would have to be over 100,000 yuan a month. Yes, over 100,000 yuan.
真的好难呀，回老家相亲。
It is really so hard. When I go back to my hometown for blind dates, they think I am too old. When I go on blind dates in the big cities, they think I am too poor. I'm a 33-year-old bachelor. No children, no wife. When I eat alone, the whole family is fed. Now I have drifted all the way to Shenzhen. This bridge tunnel is where I live. Do you see it? Right there inside the bridge tunnel behind me. Anyway, maybe this is just how my life is going to be.
现在很多女生没有男朋友。
So now a lot of women do not have boyfriends. And no one is pursuing them either. This is a very real problem. In today's society, a lot of men are staying clear-headed and simply giving up. Because of how bad the overall environment is, a lot of men do not even have extra money for food fun or entertainment. But if you want to pursue a girl now, you have to pay a price. If you do not invest anything, people say you are not sincere. And if you are unlucky enough to become just a backup option, and then the two people turn out to be incompatible in every way, then not only do you lose everything you put in, you also end up emotionally miserable. So this really has no direct connection to whether there are good girls or not. In fact, there are still many good girls and good boys in society waiting for us to meet and date. If you're still watching, comment 1 so I know you're still with me.
在我们江西的农村啊，
In the rural areas of Jiangxi where we live, things are really heading toward collapse. Just from walking around our own village, I can already count 60 bachelors. And for families like ours, with a car, a house, even a small Western-style home, it is still already very hard to marry a wife these days.
为什么说现在的男生宁愿单着也不相亲啊？
Why is it that a lot of men today would rather stay single than go on blind dates? It is not that men today are being overly picky about blind dates. It is that they are truly afraid. Afraid of emptying out their parents' retirement savings just to get married. Afraid of taking on 30 years of mortgage payments, only to end up with just a wife. And let us not even talk about what kind of wife she might be. What scares them even more is this. What if the marriage ends in divorce? Then the savings from half a lifetime could all be divided away.
在相亲市场里，尤其是大城市啊，
In the matchmaking market, especially in big cities, men are the truly scarce resource. Why? Because the entry threshold for men is too high. In big cities, if you do not have a house, a car, and savings, you cannot even touch the threshold of the matchmaking market. A lot of ordinary men get beaten down by reality for years and then realize they cannot stay, so they just go back to their hometowns. That is what has led to matchmaking events in big cities, becoming a male market that has already gone through brutal selection. For women who want to stay in the city, they do not need to buy a house. They do not need to prepare bride price, and they do not even need savings. That is why the number of women entering the market is so large. But on the other side, the number of qualified male candidates who can actually take them in is extremely small
足疗店都没有这些婆娘这么狠。
Even a foot massage parlor is not as ruthless as these women. Have you noticed that if you go to a foot massage parlor or a bathhouse, you are not going to lose your entire fortune? But if you come here and try to date these women, you really might lose everything you own. This is not an exaggeration. You want love. She wants to get out of debt. You want to build a family. She wants to strip your family bare. The marriage and dating market today is no longer the kind of place it used to be, where people seriously discussed marriage and building a life together. It has become one giant marketplace of transactions. A lot of men cannot understand it. I only wanted to be with a woman, to date to fall in love or to get married. But in the end, my savings, even the money I had set aside for my old age, are all gone. Right now, many women out there use feelings as a cover, use love as an excuse, to spend your money, to use your money, to take your money. And once they have spent almost everything you have, they just pai pigu and walk away. They can casually make up any excuse. For example, the two of us are not really compatible in personality. Or, you did not brush your teeth last night. Or, you only earn that little bit every month. How are we supposed to live like this in the future? Little by little, once you cannot keep spending anymore, once there is no money left to spend, or once they have already spent nearly everything you had, they start looking for the next man, who even knows how many they have dated. But the more they date, the richer they become. And you as a man, the more you date, the poorer you become. You keep dating. And in the end, by the very end, you are left with absolutely nothing. Can you believe it? Tangshan has practically become a real-life kingdom of women. Out of every 10 women, 9 are actually single. So many older, unmarried women. So what is really going on? Do they truly not want to get married? Or have they simply never met the right person at all?
来，先看视频。
Watch the video first. Look, even the matchmaker said the two of us are quite compatible. Would you consider me? But first, I need to tell you about my situation. Every month, I have to repay 10,000 yen in debt, and I still have to keep paying it for 2 more years. That is okay. You can keep paying your debt. Once we are together, I will cover all of our food, housing, and transportation. Then would you be willing to help me pay off these 2 years of debt completely? How much is still left? If it is 10,000 yuan a month, then I probably still need a little over 2 years. That would be around 300,000 yen. I can accept that, and I am willing. After we get married, once you are pregnant with my child, I will pay all of it off for you. I think you just want to get everything for free. No miss between the two of us. Who is the one really trying to get everything for free? Mister, it is okay. I wish you find someone better, brother. How could you actually take her seriously? She was only trying to find some fool to take over her financial mess. Only if you paid off her 300,000 yen debt would she even be willing to spend time with you. And yet here you were, walking in and immediately asking her to marry you and have your child. No wonder she said you were the one trying to get something for free. But as for this girl, if I read the situation correctly, you are probably carrying naked debt already. And this financial mess is about to blow up in your face. That is why you panicked. You rushed straight into the matchmaking market to find some unlucky man to take the fall for you. But what you never expected is that men today have already become fully alert.
你们村光棍多吗？刚我妈给我
Are there a lot of bachelors in your village? Just now my mom called me. We had just finished talking, and today she had gone to attend a wedding banquet. It was for a distant relative, 31 years old, first marriage, and he married a 38-year-old woman who had been married before and was bringing a child with her. So while we were talking, we ended up talking about how many bachelors there are in our village now. Then the two of us started counting them one by one on our fingers. And wow, truly, if you do not count, you do not realize it. But once you count, it really shocks you. Can you believe it? In that little mountain village of ours, just among the people we personally know, there are already a full 23 bachelors. And that is not even counting those who are divorced, or those people we do not interact with normally and do not know well. Do you know what I mean? And I kept thinking, how did it get to the point where there are so many bachelors now? Anyway, after thinking it through, this is roughly how I see it. You all can tell me whether you agree or not. Now, for girls in the countryside, if they have even a little bit of ambition, or even a little bit of ability, who would still be willing to stay in a mountain village? In our place, transportation used to be especially bad. Now, the roads have been repaired a little bit. And once that happened, those who study go out to study, those who work go out to work. Some go to Changxi, some to Zhuzhou, and farther away to places like Shenzhen, Shanghai, and other cities. Once they have seen the wider world, who would still want to come back and marry into a place like ours? Right. Sometimes, during summer vacation, I take my child back to see my parents, and I realize that in our village now, young men are everywhere in groups, and their conditions are not even that bad. Some of them run small convenience stores and things like that. They are not considered too bad at all. But young women, on the contrary, have practically become a rare species. You may not believe this when I say it, but even divorced women, even women bringing a child with them, are considered highly sought after where we are. The way men crowd around them is almost like people rushing to grab holiday supplies during the new year. As long as a man from the South takes a liking to one, he cannot wait to immediately prepare the bride price or take out a loan to buy an apartment in the county seat, all because he is terrified that if he is even one step too late, someone else will take her first. It really is that extreme. The second reason, in my opinion, is that the cost of marriage now is just too high. If you do not have a house, if you do not have a car, people cannot even be bothered to come to your door. And even if you have a self-built house in the countryside, that does not count. At the very least, you need to have a commercial apartment in the county town before it is considered that you truly have a home. As for bride price, there is no need to even mention it. Our place may be poor, but people are still very particular about these things. Then you add the 3 gold items, the 5 gold items, the wedding banquet, and everything else. Getting married once really can empty out an entire family and still leave them deep in debt. A few years ago, my neighbor, just so his son could get married, even sold the cow their family depended on. So now the old couple and the son are all working just to pay back debt. It really is like that. And on top of that, young people today seem to no longer want to get married themselves. For men, they feel the cost of marriage is too high. The pressure is too great, so they simply choose to lie flat. As for women, it feels like they are becoming more and more independent and more clear-minded. Now, in this age of the internet, everyone can work outside and earn money. They feel like living alone is actually not that bad. So why must they get married? Why must they go serve another person's entire family, become a free nanny, and turn into a machine for childbirth? One of my childhood friends works in Changsha. She works in beauty services. She earns her own money and spends it herself. She lives very freely and comfortably. Her family keeps pressuring her to marry, but the moment marriage is mentioned, she just shakes her head. But having said that, the fact that there are more and more bachelors where we are is not just one person's problem. Times have really changed. People's way of thinking has changed too. Both men and women have started to understand.
农村为什么有越来越多的光棍？
Why are there more and more bachelors in the countryside? It really is not because bride price is too high. Back then, we truly got the whole thing backward. It is not that high bride price created more bachelors. It is that there were already too many bachelors, and that pushed bride price higher and higher, step by step. So where did all these bachelors come from? At the root of it, there is only one reason, and everyone knows it. Back then, every family had one obsession. They wanted to have a son. If you were an ordinary family, you wanted a son. If your conditions were average, you wanted a son even more. The entire bottom layer of society held on to this belief that there absolutely had to be a boy. People always say the chance of having a boy or a girl is 50-50. So why in the end did the gender ratio become so different? It was because people deliberately held on to that mindset, wanting only to keep boys and abandon girls. That is how son preference and contempt for daughters came into being. The more they spoiled their sons, the more they failed their daughters. And when those children grew up, once the girls grew up, the first thing they wanted was to escape the countryside. And girls more often than not kept leaving for the outside world. So naturally, more and more local young men of marriageable age were unable to find wives because most of the girls had already left. Some people are always criticizing women today, saying they worship money, that they are too realistic, that they refuse to marry poor men. But has anyone ever thought about why they are unwilling to turn back? Because they saw with their own eyes what kind of life their mothers lived after marrying their poor fathers. That kind of life, the original family they came from, was nothing but a mess. Constant chaos, constant hardship. They had already seen through it all. The CCP authorities once admitted that during more than 40 years of the family planning policy, China cumulatively had about 400 million fewer births. Some analyses believe that the number of leftover men in rural China has reached as high as 30 million. First of all, this is one of the bitter consequences brought by family planning, which caused the gender ratio to become unbalanced. These people cannot get married and cannot have children. They are also unable to see any future. The CCP has led all Chinese people into a situation with no hope. And when the time comes for nationwide resistance, these tens of millions of people will very quickly become the main force resisting the CCP. If we look at the latest numbers, this is no longer just a story about a few bachelor villages or a few young people hesitating to marry. By the end of 2025, China's population stood at about 1.40489 billion, down another 3.39 million from the end of 2024. In 2025, China recorded only 7.92 million births, while deaths reached 11.31 million. In other words, deaths continued to far exceed births, and the natural population growth rate fell to negative 2.41 per thousand. This was the fourth consecutive year of population decline in China. What is even more striking is that marriage registrations in 2025 rose slightly to about 6.76 million couples, up roughly 10.8% from the 2024 low of about 6.11 million couples. But even with that rebound, the figure remained low compared with 7.68 million couples in 2023, and far below the peak years from the past. That reveals a very cold reality. Marriage may be getting a short-term lift from policy support and social pressure, but young people's long-term confidence in building a family has not truly returned. And that may be the most troubling part of all. When women keep leaving rural areas in search of a different life, when rural men find it harder and harder to enter the marriage market, and when housing costs, bride price, child-rearing expenses, and income pressure all crash down on the same generation, then being single is no longer just a personal issue. It becomes a social fracture. From villages with too few brides to cities full of matchmaking events that go nowhere. From a fertility crisis to a broader fear about the future. The numbers on population births, deaths, and marriages are all pointing in the same direction. China is not only running short of marriages, it is also running short of confidence in marriage itself. So what do you think is the real cause of this marriage crisis? Is it the long shadow of decades of son preference and gender imbalance? Is it economic pressure, making men afraid to marry and women unwilling to go back? Or have marriage standards today become so practical, so expensive, and so transactional that even love can no longer hold them together? Leave your opinion in the comments below. Your view may be controversial, but that is exactly what makes this discussion worth having. Subscribe to the channel for more in-depth analysis of Chinese society and the economy. Thank you for watching, goodbye, and see you in the next video.